I just seen the Northman. It's pretty cool. Spoiler alert. It has Eric from True Blood. And he played the Northman. True Blood, he was over 1,000 years old, and it has Nicole Kidman that played his mother. You know, that's wild. But yeah, he starts out, and his dad is coming home from a raid. There were Vikings, and everything's going good, but his dad got injured. So he probably would have lived, but he wasn't sure. So they went through a ritual, which is weird. I don't remember seeing this in Viking folklore, but maybe. But it acted as dogs, you know. And then they did some kind of drug that made them kind of hallucinate. So the the Northman is the little boy, and his uncle kills his daddy, you know, and he takes over his brother kingdom and everything. So the little boy is trying to sees his dad get killed, and he just went through this ritual and ends up stabbing a guy in the nose, and he escapes and he goes to this other land where they have other Vikings, and then you see him years later. So this is spoiler alert, and he's a adult now, and he's on the boat rowing with the other Vikings, and they raid a village, and they're real good at just running up to a wood fortress and just taking an axe and climbing it up by hand. I mean, very vicious warriors, you know. So they go in there and they wipe them all out, and they take the ones they want for slaves and all that. And the Northman, Eric, he's been looking for a way to get this guy to kill his dad and revenge. That's all he's lived for. And he finds out that his uncle, he had the kingdom took from him. So now he's went to Iceland somewhere, and he's like a chieftain now instead of a king. So the Northman, he takes a brand and brands himself as a slave, swims out to the slave boat, climbs on it when nobody's kind of looking, and acts like he's a slave. And they end up taking him up to his uncle, and he tries to fit in, and he meets a lady that's in the slave camp, and they kind of have boyfriend, girlfriend, when they can, because, they're slaves, so they can't really associate with each other. So then the Northman, he starts taking out several people in the camp, and they think it's a spirit doing it. They're like, who's taking out all these people? And then he goes and he sees his mother, and his mother told her that his whole life's been a lie, and she was a slave, and she said, you kill your uncle, and me and you will be together. And he's like, eh. So he has to, goes in there and he kills his uncle's son. So I guess his cousin. And then they're trying to figure out what happened, and they're fixing to kill his little girlfriend. So he comes out and says, hey, he says he has a heart, but he said it could have been a dog. So they beat him and trying to figure out what to do, and they're going to get revenge. And somehow the crows come in there and ate he was tied to a pole, hanging above the ground. And the crows come in there and tie straps. And one of the guards couldn't figure out how to open the sword that he had. So he just threw it in there. So now he's got the sword, and all he has to do is get away, but he's too weak. But the way earlier, how he got the sword, he went to like a witch, for the Vikings. It was in a cave, and he told him where to go get it. And he had to climb down and get this sword by a rope. And he got the sword. I guess he was a warrior that was buried, that they honored and buried him with his sword, but it was like an open tomb. And everything, they had several, like the buildings were buried in the ground with grass growing over them. So he could climb on top of the buildings and go in the roofs, and nobody even seen him going around. So he was really like a ninja. He was a Viking ninja. Then his girlfriend gets him away, and somehow he's able to see that they're starting to get away on a boat. And he realizes he has a vision that she's pregnant with 2 children. So he says, there was a prophecy. I'd choose to help my kin, or I would have my vengeance. So he goes back to the camp and just gets them all. And he has to kill his mother because she comes at him with a knife, and his little half brother comes at him and he just slings and kills him. And his uncle looks at him and, I will meet you at the gates of hell, which is really a volcano that's active with lava, so his uncle takes his wife and his child and has them there at the mountain when the Northman shows up. So then they have a battle, and they were in clothes, and all of a sudden they're naked. It's dark, but they're naked, fighting with swords, around lava, which is really strange. And then, so he's almost beat the Northman, the uncle did, and he's fixing to get him. And then he finds the inner strength, kind of like a wrestler, and he gets all his strength, and he gives the final blow to his uncle and cuts his head off. And then the Northman is bleeding from his wounds from fighting his other family, and he has a sword stuck in him. And he lays back, and then he sees like they have some mystical thing where some kind of horse is carrying him up to Valhalla in the air, and it's riding up in the air. And he had a vision that his girlfriend said they were okay and safe, so he could die now. And that's how it ended. It's kind of sad, but it was pretty good. Eric from True Blood, he's older, but he's still pretty good in shape. But yeah, it was a good movie. I'd recommend it. It's a 2022 movie.